All right, we're preparing now for the last session of the day, and one of the most important in the sense that you've heard from all the speakers before about the importance of our labor force. And these next four speakers are critical to the development of that labor force and to its maintenance over time. And that's primarily because the education, these days, your education never ends. You need to continue to build your skills over your lifetime because the world is changing around you. And so having these key educational institutions in the community are important to maintain the quality of our labor force and therefore the quality of our business community. I'm going to introduce all four of our speakers here at the beginning and let them run through their program. We're allowing only about 10 or 15 minutes for each, so we have some questions and answers afterwards, so we want to move right into it. Mark Hunt, it will be our first speaker. He's with the public schools here, the K-12 system, but he also oversees the technical college. And so, and you'll hear about the average age of the technical college student is much older than high school. So it's an ongoing process as well as the K-12. And then we've got Sherri, well, actually our next speaker will be Mr. Krupp here, Dr. Krupp, Jason Krupp from St. Petersburg College. He's in charge of the internship and apprenticeship program at that college. So that's the interaction we see between the business community and St. Petersburg College. So we'll hear about that. Then we'll have Sherri Senora who's the Dean of Business at the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg, that brand new beautiful building on the campus. And we've got a brand new dean who's ready to take it to new levels, looking at both the business skills and entrepreneurial. And then to wrap us up, Cliff Mers, who's a city council member in the Safety Harbor, is also, his day job is a professor at the Marine Science Program at the University of South Florida. And that is overseen, it's in St. Petersburg, but overseen by the Tampa campus. And he'll talk a little bit about the workforce preparation, but also, as Mr. Murphy referenced, the ability to attract those research dollars and that federal funding to Pinellas County and in order to create new technologies and potentially new industries and companies. So we'll start off right away with Mr. Hunt and move down the road. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Wanted to share with you a little bit about the Pinellas County school system and what we are doing to prepare students for career and college, because that's very important to everyone in the district as well as mainly our superintendent. And Dr. Grego is adamant about the idea that all students will be prepared for career and college when they graduate from high school, and that every single graduate that walks across that stage later in May is going to have a plan for what they're going to do immediately after graduation. And that plan does not include sitting on the couch and waiting for something to happen for them. It involves continuing their education at some type of post-secondary training, going into the military, entering the workforce directly, but they will have a plan, and we've got systems in place that I'll share with you to make that happen. But that plan, that graduation plan, begins in the elementary school. And what we've tried to accomplish is develop a pathway for students and parents all the way from elementary, all the way through post-secondary, in that preparation for life, career. Because I think we all would agree, every single person that leaves our school system will have a job, we hope, especially if it's your child. But our job is to prepare those young people for that career. And what we are putting together is a system where students will start to investigate as early as elementary school what interests them. What do I want to be when I grow up? And many of you that have the same hair design as mine can recall a time when we were young. One of the commercials on television was, Daddy, what am I going to do? What do I want to be when I grow up, sort of thing. And that question is still relevant. And so what we're trying to do is create that pathway for students to be able to identify what is it that I want to do? Not specifically what job or what career I want to have, but in general, what do I want to do? Do I want to be in healthcare? Do I want to be an engineer? Do I want to be a technician? What is it that I want to do? And we'll help them identify what that is as they progress through school and hone that down to when they graduate from high school, they are getting the education that they need to secure that career goal. In elementary school, obviously we have all the requirements of academic education, but to enhance and extend learning beyond the school day, we've implemented STEM Academies. And STEM Academies are a after-school program that we have in 286 different locations, different STEM academies, and students come after their normal school day and participate in project-based STEM activities. And STEM stands for, S stands for? Great, you all get an A for the day. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And what we found with our young elementary students is they have a difficult time applying mathematics and science concepts to their everyday world. Why am I learning this? I think some of us that have children have heard that before. Why do I have to learn this stuff? Well, the STEM academies are all about helping them understand that science applies to their everyday life. We do it through pre-engineering activities, through applied learning activities in the STEM academies. They're fun. Kids have success, but they learn science through that fun. They also learn mathematics through applied learning. And we help students have that success in that fun environment, and that bleeds over into their regular school day. Another part of that that blends into the normal school day is we've implemented science labs in elementary schools. Now you may say, well, how is that unusual? That is unusual for an elementary setting. Not unusual for middle school or high school, but for an elementary setting, a dedicated science lab is something that is unusual. And we've set up science labs in our elementary schools to help reinforce science skills. Because what we found and research shows is that when young students learn difficult concepts early, like in elementary school, they do much better on those concepts further down the path. And one of the predictors to a student's graduation, whether or not a student will graduate from high school, is their ability to pass standardized tests in math and science and reading in third grade. The data shows that if a student is unsuccessful at a standardized math or science or reading test in the third grade, their chances of graduating from high school are 70% less than if they had been successful. And the reason is not because they failed that test. The reason is they don't have those foundational skills they need to build on as they go through school. So it's really important that we build those foundational school skills in elementary school. And that's where math and science and STEM come in play. We've run STEM academies for this is the fourth year, including this year, and you'll see the growth. We've grown from 56 STEM academies serving a little over 1,100 students in the first year to 251 academies serving over 5,200 students. That's a huge growth, and the only limiting factor to that is finding teachers that are willing to stay that extra time after school, after their normal school day, and work that long day, because that makes their work day about 12 hours if you count planning and post cleanup and things like that. So that's a commitment for the teachers, but we found teachers to do that. And what we do is we take teachers from a particular elementary school where they're going to have a STEM academy. We provide training for them in the STEM concepts. They do the STEM academy after school, But that teacher has those skills embedded in their normal practice, and those skills bleed over into their normal school day. And what we saw just in that short period of time is that STEM Academy students are performing 3.2 times more likely to earn a proficient score on a math assessment and 3.68 times more likely to earn a proficient score on a science assessment in their elementary grades, just because they went through the STEM Academy, which is fun, which teaches them science and math, and they are successful. That success will carry them through those difficult middle school years on into high school, and they will be successful. So what we've done, and we feel like we've been successful at it, is increased our graduation rate in the coming 10 years. Because those kids that are in STEM academies now, they're not going to graduate, some of them, for 10 years. Okay, so that's a long-term investment. Next step is middle school. Think about an elementary school student that has had success in their math and science. They found out that they can do math. Math is not that hard. They can do science. Science isn't that hard. Girls can do math, boys can do science, and vice versa. So when they make that transition to middle school, that success they've had carries them over into middle school, because we have two main transitional periods that cause a lot of trouble for K-12 students. One is that transition from 5th grade to 6th grade. Went from a 5th grader who was typically the tallest, oldest kid in school to now a 6th grader who's now the shortest, smallest kid in the middle school. Big change. And the next big transition point is from 8th grade to 9th grade. Similar situation. Went from big man on campus to small man in the pool. So we wanted to create success for our middle school students, and that starts in elementary. We also wanted to start getting kids to explore about careers. What is it that I want to do when I grow up? In middle school, for career preparation, we have exploratory programs in every single one of our middle schools through career education. And middle school is not about trying to help kids decide what job do I want to have and that sort of thing. It's not about tracking. It's about helping them decide what I'm interested in. Exploration, letting them figure out what really flips their switch. And so through our middle school exploratory programs, we're able to expose kids to a variety of occupational areas, broad occupational areas, health occupations, information technology and computers, engineering, technology, those sorts of things, just so that way kids can find out, well, I'm really interested in health occupations. I like that. And I'm really not interested in engineering. Those kinds of decisions that middle school kids make. And so as they progress from 6th to 7th grade, they're starting to figure out their place in their path, starting to get a vision of what I want to be when I grow up, what general area. We help kids make that decision for one reason. We want them to set a career goal, so that way we can align their educational path to achieve that goal. And as it should be, most middle school kids have the high end of that spectrum in mind. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. I want to be an attorney. I want to be a physicist, whatever it might be. And that's great. So if we plan for that high-level success, they have options when they get to the end of the road. Our middle school programs, we have something called career academies in both our middle schools and high schools. And career academies are essentially a subset of the grander school. It's a small group. Dang, that went fast, man. I got 27 more slides. All right, I'll speed up. Okay, so career academies are a smaller school within a school around a theme. And we found that kids will come to school more frequently if they enjoy what they're coming to school for, and there's some theme wrapped around it. I belong to the culinary academy. I belong to the engineering academy. I belong to the music academy, whatever it is. If I belong, I will show up every day. And if we found that if they show up every day, we can teach them and we can make them successful. We've had over 2,200 middle school students earn industry certifications, mostly in IT areas, and that shows success, and that gives them success. They feel successful, and that builds their self-worth. So when they go to high school, that jump from 8th grade to 9th grade will not be as drastic. They will not feel like it's a big challenge. What goes along with that are academic testing, PSAT testing. That's a big deal for us. We make sure that every single 8th grade student takes the PSAT and prepares for that SAT test when they go into high school, because we found that the more they practice those tests, the more success they will have. And if they're successful on the PSAT or ACT test, the chances of them graduating are 95%. High school, again, career academies in high school, same concept. It's a school within a school around a theme. Make kids feel like they belong. They will come. We can teach them. Last year, we had over 22,000 students in our CTE programs. And in those CTE programs, our students earned over 10,000 industry certifications. Along the way, they participated in internships, project-based learning, and career and college dual enrollment at St. Petersburg College and dual enrollment at Pinellas Technical College. That dual enrollment serves a purpose. Gets that student connected to that next step, which is post-secondary education. They start to feel success in post-secondary education while they're in high school, where they're comfortable. It's not such a big deal. I can go to college. I can do whatever I choose I want to choose. Just some pictures of variety of career academies we have: veterinary, culinary, construction. The Academies of Pinellas is the structure under which we operate our career academies. We have business partners that participate in our career academy visits. Those business partners visit our schools, our academies, twice a year. We have a master plan in place, and 2017 is the conclusion of that plan. Goals for that were 50% of all the high school students enrolled would be in an academy, and 35% of our graduates would have achieved at least one industry certification. We have met both of those goals. Next 5-year goal is that 100% of our students will be enrolled in an academy, and 50% of them will graduate with an industry certification. That shows some of the demographics of our academies. 52 academies across the district. And again, we have achieved those metrics that we set forth earlier. Career academy involvement in success. We found the data shows that career academy students graduate at a higher rate. The gap between males and females in graduation rate is pretty much non-existent within a career academy, whereas in non-academy students, females graduate at a higher rate than males, and we want to eliminate that gap. We partner with, we partner with AmSkills, which is a group that is focused on manufacturing. We provide space for AmSkills to operate in some of our schools. We have dual enrollment program we're starting up with AmSkills, focusing on manufacturing this coming year. In addition to the programs that we offer at Pinellas Technical College along the lines of manufacturing and welding and construction. That shows our growth of industry certifications from 2011-12, just over 2,000 certifications, to last year over 10,000 industry certifications for students. Talks a little bit about dual enrollment, like I mentioned before. Future Plans. Future Plans is the program that we've implemented in all high schools that students participate in and helps them set their path for after graduation. And essentially, Future Plans identifies what the student's interests are, identifies where those occupational interests can be facilitated through training, whether it's at the technical college or the state college, and where they can go to get those programs. Graduation rate, this is very important. In the last 3 years, our graduation rate has increased from just over 71%, 71.8%, to last year over 80.7%. That's the highest graduation rate of a similar sized district in the state of Florida. And as you can see, Pinellas County has eclipsed the state average on graduation rate, which is huge. Our superintendent's goal is 90% graduation rate by the year 2020, which is unheard of and unparalleled in the state of Florida. Pinellas Technical College is one other institution that I'm responsible for, and earlier you heard talk about technical skills, and Technical College is the place where we offer that technical training. And I'll leave you with one thought. One of our career ed board members likes to share that he did a little research and he found that for every single postgraduate degree or a graduate degree, there are 3 bachelor's degrees, but there are 7 technical degrees and technical occupations that support that higher degree. So that technical college is critical to the economic livelihood of Pinellas County, and Pinellas Technical College is there to help serve that and feed students to the degree programs at St. Pete College. And at the Technical College, we offer 52 different programs, along with apprenticeships in 7 different areas. So just wanted to share that with you. I apologize for such a fast run, but if you have any questions, we'll be available afterward, and I'll turn it over to Jason now.
Oh, good afternoon. Hi, everybody. I'm Jason Krupp, Director of Workforce Services at St. Petersburg College. Thank you, Mike, for including St. Petersburg College. We're proud to be a partner in economic development, along with the other educational providers publicly funded in our region. St. Petersburg College has been around for 90 years, since 1927. We've been in the fabric of the community. We've evolved and we've adapted and we've led the community. In 2002, we became the first junior college to take the junior out, and some of you are alumni here, and thank you for your support and wearing your blues today, your SPC blue. But we became a 4-year college in 2002 and started offering bachelor's degrees in high-need areas for the workforce. And we've evolved over time. I'll get into some of our degrees here in a moment. Mark mentioned pathways, and pathways is something that we have ingrained into our fabric in our institution, and everything we do is about the pathways for students. We're a student-centered organization, and we meet students at the front door, and we require career exploration activities to be sure we get them on the right pathway. We reach back with Pinellas County schools, and we have articulation agreements in place. We're going to have, this year we've added another, I think, 20 agreements. We're going to have 50 agreements in place where students who have participated in those career academies you heard about and earning industry certifications and going through Pinellas Technical College, we don't want them to duplicate their efforts when they come to St. Petersburg College. If they've already demonstrated competencies through those technical courses, we're going to award them credits for what they've already done. So we've got a campaign that we're going to kick off for the graduating students this year and try to channel them in, if they're still interested in pursuing that same academy type of training, come to St. Petersburg College, associate science degree, and go right into the workforce. Apprenticeships is relatively new for St. Petersburg College. We have a grant, and we're going into our 2nd year now, and we have a goal of adding 20 new apprenticeship programs, partnering with Pinellas Technical College, AmSkills, and local businesses, adding 20 new programs and enrolling 333 students in apprenticeships by 2020, because we believe in the value of all types of training to get students into the workforce. Some of the new apprenticeships that we're developing are with like telecommunications, with Knight Enterprises. This is a new type of an apprenticeship program. We're also looking at mechatronics as well. So stay tuned for that. There was a forum earlier today, so there's a lot of talk today about apprenticeships. Here's a high-level overview of all of our programs that we offer at St. Petersburg College. We offer 116 different programs, ranging from adult vocational to baccalaureate. Traditional, we have the AA transfer degree as well, which prepares students to go on to a bachelor's degree either with us or at another state university. The 3 adult vocational programs are Academies, Police Academy, Fire Academy, and we have a new EMT adult vocational program that allows more flexibility in scheduling and accommodating students as they want to start those programs. The 56 certificate programs are short-term training programs. 1 semester is the shortest one we have, and they range up to 1 semester to 4 semesters. Those are just skill-based training. There's no general education requirements in those certificates. So we have like Cisco Certified Network Associate training and similar programs like that. Those all roll up into the Associate in Science degree programs. So a student can, if they just want to take those certificates, they can do that. And they can also continue on and get their 2-year degree. The AS degrees are Associate in Science. And so we call that our workforce programs, the AS and the certificates. We also have 20 baccalaureate degrees. Over on the right, you'll see the breakdown of our enrollment. Of the 44,000 students we had enrolled throughout the year last year, 17,000 of those students were the AA traditional transfer students going into bachelor's degree programs. But you'll also see a large majority are workforce and baccalaureate enrollment. So those are students that are going directly into workforce after they've completed their program. The 7,200 that are listed as undeclared are largely our dual enrollment and early college program students. But also some of those are just students that are taking classes for job enrichment or personal enrichment. We awarded 8,100 credentials last year of all those certificates, AS and baccalaureate degrees in the past year. So you can see we're generating a lot of output for the workforce and to our local economy. And we're also very proud of the salaries that our graduates are making. Last year, the governor presented an award to our president for having the highest entry wages of graduates throughout the whole state college system. So we're very proud of that, and you can see, and we're also number 4 in the nation according to the Brookings Institute in the value of education for our graduates as well. So this shows the kind of salaries, and as you can see, the salaries do increase with the higher level education attained. So internships and work-based learning. I've given a definition of how we describe an internship, and it's a supervised, which is a key word, practical learning experience in the workplace that offers a student opportunity to apply, connect, and extend what they've learned in the classroom and competencies that they've earned to build professional skills and networks. According to NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, 80% of internships result in job offers. And we're seeing that happen in a lot of our programs, particularly those if they're working in internships in private sector. So I said supervised because it's at the supervised activity. And I'm talking about credit internships. So they're earning college credit. These are embedded in the curriculum of our workforce programs. They're required. Some are electives, but they're required to do some type of work-based learning activity. So there's a faculty member associated with the internship, and there's a supervisor with the employer as well. So those learning objectives are set up front with the student. The student's required to stay in touch with the faculty member, and they have guided exercises and activities throughout the duration of the internship to ensure that there's good quality placement happening and that there's learning happening, the employer's needs are met, the student's needs are met, and everyone's happy. So the chart here shows our distribution of health clinicals. We had 3,500 placements out in the community with our health programs. That's the biggest portion of our work-based learning. And about almost 1,500 internships, students in non-health programs out in the community working with employers. And 303 of those were practicum, which is basically a smaller scale of an internship. So now I'm going to go through the programs, and I'm not going to share all programs with you, but instead, for the sake of time, I've targeted your sectors with Pinellas County Economic Development, your targeted sectors, your primary industries, your primary employers, where we're going to drive the most economic growth, and share with you about the programs that we offer and the internships associated with those. So information technology, one of the primary industries that you're targeting, we're also targeting it. Our bachelor's degree in technology management was revised last year, and it's one of the very few bachelor's degree programs to include software development. So we have associate in science degree programs below that all roll up into that baccalaureate program. Students can complete the certificate and choose to go to work. They can go on and get their AS degree, go to work and or continue on and get their bachelor's degree. So these all roll up into each other in what we call like a lattice program. So they all count towards the bachelor's degree program. So I've got a video that I want to show you here. One of our graduates works at Revel, and you can see how she's leveraging the internship program to secure as a talent pipeline for their company. So if we can cue up the video there.
I love what I do here at Revel Systems because St. Petersburg College has allowed me to transition from my old career as a chef into a new career using computer networking with restaurants and retail. Here at Revel Systems, we decided that we wanted to grow our company through interns, and after my experience with the St. Pete College internship program, this was the first stop. The faculty really assists in guiding your experience and also making sure that you're getting the hands-on real world that you really need in order to move on in your career. I would recommend St. Petersburg College because of the ease of access, the affordability. It is local here in Pinellas County. All of the campuses are easy to get to, and the fact that you can continue your education to a 4-year degree as well. Less experience and more excitement and trainability. That's what companies are really looking for now. St. Petersburg College really is able to provide that.
Well, thank you, Amy. I got to get a shirt like that with the tie built in. That looked a lot more comfortable. So going on to life sciences and medical technologies, one of the other sectors. So these are all health programs, and I didn't include all the details because there's too much to include on a slide, honestly, but we have baccalaureate level. There's 4 baccalaureate level programs: dental hygiene, veterinary technology, health administration management. And all the other ones are associate and science level degree programs, all of them leading directly into the workforce. On the right, you can see some of our clinical partners that have been longstanding partners with us in the community to help make those clinical sites happen. So thank you for all of those business partners. Earlier we heard about, well, the last symposium we had, the speaker talked about batting averages. And, you know, the best batting average, I think, in history of baseball is like 406 or something like that. So if you look at our batting average, we're in like 900s for licensure pass rates of our health programs. So you all should be very proud of the outcoming talent for our healthcare. You can't go into a hospital or dentist office and not see one of our graduates there working on you or helping you. But you can see the pass rates all exceed national or state averages. So we're very proud of our students and our faculty who are preparing them for their licensures. Advanced manufacturing, obviously, IT and advanced manufacturing seem to be our top 2 primary industries. We have the AA transfer plan. Again, that's a traditional that if someone wants to go on to industrial engineering or mechanical or any other types of engineering, we have the foundation for them to take the first 2 years with us and transfer on to USF or other school. Biomedical engineering technology is one of our newest AS degree programs, a 2-year degree program, and it's very few of these in the nation, actually. These are designed to prepare students to work on medical equipment, medical devices, and hospitals and labs. So that's going to be at our Tarpon Springs campus starting this summer. Currently it's at the Clearwater campus, but it will be going to Tarpon Springs beginning this summer. So we're getting all the equipment in place for that. Underneath that, we have the engineering technology AS degree and several tracks within that to specialize in certain certificates or as part of your studies in the AS degree. So those are like specializations or concentrations within the AS degree. That's at the Clearwater campus, and we're very proud of that facility. It's our Center for Emerging Technologies, and it is, we've got state-of-the-art equipment in there, programmable, easy for me to say, PLCs, programmable logic controls, electronic technicians, 3D printers, 3D scanners. We have employers that come in and use the facility and work with our students to help rapid prototyping projects. So it's sort of like an open lab concept. Students can come in there anytime and practice and work on their homework. At the bottom there, you'll see our 3 of our companies that we've hosted or partnered with for internships. And I got time for one more video. If we could show this video, this is how we're partnering with Cardio Command, one of the local employers, with biomedical engineering technology.
I'm James Moore, Director of Operations here at Cardio Command. Every day is a unique day. We never know what challenges we're going to face here in the manufacturing world. For someone that's interested in working in the medical devices field, I would definitely recommend St. Petersburg College because I've seen the curriculum. It's very applicable to what you're going to actually do in the industry, and they do a really good job trying to get their students affiliated with industry early on so that when they do get into the field, the theories and concepts that they've learned in class, they have some experience applying those in the actual field. So it makes them a much better employee. We actually have 2 St. Petersburg College students working here. They were well prepared in terms of what really goes on in the workplace. Nationwide, there is a skills gap with regards to technical skills. The programs that St. Pete College has put in place are right on target with regards to what we need in terms of biomedical technicians.
So again, that's going to be at the Tarpon Springs campus. And I want to just put a plug in for Jerry Custins here from Upper Tampa Bay Manufacturing Association. He's partnering with us and our Workforce Institute to host the 4th Industrial Revolution meeting. That'll be at the Oldsmar campus for the Workforce Institute May 11th? May 7th? May 17th. If you're a part of his if you get his newsletter, he'll have the details on that. But that's coming up, and it should be exciting, talking about robotics and mechatronics and emerging trends in technology and manufacturing. Business and financial services, it is one of your other sectors, and these are the degrees and programs associated with business. You can see here we've got scholarships for hospitality students, hospitality and tourism management. We also have scholarships for insurance services, risk management, and there's an upcoming event for our entrepreneurship. Every year we have a business plan and elevator speech competition. You can see the date there. That'll be here at the Seminole campus coming up later this month. And I don't have time for the video. I'll just quickly cover this slide. Supply chain management, obviously related to manufacturing and business. Manufacturing, they create the things, and in between that and consuming it, there's supply chain logistics. So we have a new program, part of our business AS degree, and these are the 8 new industry certifications that we have designed in partnership with the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals. Those are all offered to all of our students as they progress through the curriculum. And then I'll segue to USF. I talked about pathways from Pinellas County schools. We've also created pathways for our students to go to USF, Titan today, Bull tomorrow, through the FUSE program, guaranteed admission to over 20 majors at USF, St. Pete, and Tampa. So with that, I will close and turn it over to our partner with USF.
That was a perfect segue. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Sherri Senora, and again, thank you very much for inviting me today. I'm taking a little different tact. I was sitting next to Tom Murphy, and Tom said, hey, I'm going to challenge you. I said, I'm up to the challenge. And we talked a little bit about where is the workforce going to be tomorrow, and how do we develop the workforce. So a little bit about the framework and what we're planning to do. And as Mike said, I've been here all of 9 months, moved from cold Michigan to warm Florida, and thoroughly enjoyed this winter. Let's talk a little about, last month I was giving a presentation, and somebody asked me, Sherri, why should I pay for education? Took me by surprise. And once I recovered, I said, well, that's a good question. How do I articulate the value of education? Today, as we talk about economic development, I wanted to give you a data-driven approach to say, yeah, there is value to higher education. And here's a couple of graphs that I want you to take a look at that was put up at the BLS. This graph shows the relationship between educational attainment and the earnings. And as you can see, it is very clear that higher the educational attainment, the higher the earnings. And on the opposite side is the unemployment rate. So as an economy, as you look at it, the higher the earnings, you have more discretionary power to invest, and that drives economic growth. On the flip side of it, when we have high unemployment, the cost of supporting unemployment is going to be substantially high. My background is in finance, and so I had to look at it and say, what about economic cycles? So here's a second graph that gives a very historical perspective. And as you can see, post-2008, the highest unemployment rate was with the category that had less than high school education. And the lowest was with someone that had the highest amount of education. So we know economic cycles are a reality, and as a community, if we are to soften the blow, we want to make sure that we have as educated a workforce, whether we're talking K through 12, the technical training, at every facet. I think this is important for community growth. Now that I've made the case, why we need to invest in education as a community, the question comes about is, what does this workforce look like tomorrow? And this is something that Tom had talked about. There's a fantastic article that was put out, a report put out by PwC. If you get a chance to take a look at it, you can just Google PwC Journey to 2022. When PwC interviewed 10,000 people across the board, from Asia to Europe to the United States, and asked both employers and potential employees to say, where do you see yourself down the future? And they've identified 3 clusters. In one extreme, we have the blue world. Where they identify the blue world is where we have the mega corporations. Whether you're talking about Apple or the Googles or the General Electric or the Samsungs of the world, where they're driven by profit and they're driven by market growth, market leadership. The talent that they attract are people who want to have job security, the opportunity to progress within an organization, have higher earnings. And the other extreme, we have green world. And what that is organizations that are driven by social missions. Whether you talk about Tommy's Shoes or the Body Shop, or where I came from, Grand Rapids, Michigan, a gentleman called Fred Keller, a good friend and a community leader, does a lot of work on B Corps, as many of you know, benefit corps. And his corporation, Cascade Engineering, focused on redeveloping and retraining people who are incarcerated and bringing them back into employment. Because he looked at the value of how much it improved economic growth within that. He said, Sherri, we went from having significant turnover to less than 10% turnover in our employment. They failed the first time they did it, but they learned. The talent that is getting attracted, the millennials, more and more of them are getting attracted to these kinds of companies. And the third group is what I call the orange world. And the orange world is really looking at specialty networks. It is talent that are looking at and saying, I have a very specialized skill set. I'm going to put out there, cybersecurity is becoming a huge part of what we're dealing with today. And you have companies that specialize in that, and they attract a special kind of talent. That's the orange world. So when you look at these 3 worlds and the talent that they attract, that's my question is, okay, so how do I train this workforce? But before I address that, I have a couple things I wanted you to think about. 20 years of progress in 100 years. At the beginning of the century, one of the futurists, Ray Kurzweil, talked about and said, 20,000 years of progress is going to be condensed into 100 years. He said, let me correct that. If anything, progress and change is accelerated even faster today. I was having a conversation with Jim Donatoli from Regions Bank, and we talked about it and said, Sherri, our father's generation, our parents' generation, changes happened maybe 20 years. Changes did happen. Our generation, maybe it's in every 10 years. But our kids' generation, the change is happening at a much faster pace. But in addition to that, we have a very unique impact, and that, you saw Tom's picture about the driverless cars today, AI, and the impact of artificial intelligence. And the impact it has on certain types of work. A phenomenal article that was very nicely written in The Economist. What they did was to look at the different kinds of work. But before I get into that, I think this is a very great thing. What determines the vulnerability is, from automation, is it's not if it's blue collar or if it's white collar, but if it's going to be routine or not. By looking at that, they looked at the type of work, and they specifically separated into cognitive and manual, what's routine and not routine. And they came up, actually did some probabilities to say what some of the professions that's going to take a beating. If you're an accountant, watch out. Amazingly today, talking to some of my board members on the program of accountancy, is that auditing has become, now AI has a huge impact on how we audit. It's a continuous process. And that's going to be, it's a routine process that's going to be affected significantly. When you look at other aspects, cognitive that's non-routine, that you're looking at creative things that can be done, whether it's marketing, whether advertising, whether you're looking at artists, those are jobs that's not going to be as impacted. So when they did some analysis of the future of employment, I'm sorry, it's hard to read, but it's really looking at, they actually put in probabilities to say, what are some of the professions that's going to be automated and what professions may survive? But the point that they wanted to make here is, folks, the fact of the matter is AI and the change and the accelerated path it's impacting us today is dramatically changed. And one of the things that I'm trying to look at and say, how does this disrupt us? What are the disruption? If I'm running a company and running a business, I'm looking at it and saying, how is this going to impact us? We talked about driverless cars. If I'm working in an insurance industry, every time I drive a Howard Franklin Bridge, I said, boy, you know, we have one more bumper that's been removed. But now, all of a sudden, we may have no accidents if you have driverless cars. Guess what? As an insurance industry, we may have a significant impact on it. So the question what we're asking is, what kind of a talent should I be producing in the K. Tiedemann College of Business at USF St. Pete? Or all of my peers be producing? It we call the adaptable talent. Someone who has the ability to be able to adapt to different changes that's happening at the pace at which it's happening. Okay? And I think Jennifer put it very well, saying we're trying to look for people and retain people, more importantly, who are open to experiences within a company, both from a function and from a location. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm saying that's the experience I want to create for my students so they're ready for it. So when we look at that kind of some of the suggestions that they have is the engagement with the industry to understand what is it that they're looking for. So whether I'm talking to, you know, I see Chris Steinacher here. Chris is here representing all of the Chamber of St. Pete and all the companies. We visited Nielsen 2 days ago and find out that they have a 3,000 operation here. And the kind of information and how technology has impacted their business, that engagement is important for me to understand how technology is changing and impacting business. 2, we can't have a program that's going to be where I prepare a major, get it approved in 5 years, and that's going to stay for a lifetime. Those days are gone. We need to be agile, just like any company or industry. We need to have the ability to modify, so can we have an educational program that can adapt to that. 3rd is the learning process is a lifelong learning. We have traditional students, you have non-traditional students, but we have students who are continuously looking to update themselves. And the last part is changing the paradigm. How can we meld education and employment? One extreme, we used to develop an executive MBA with a healthcare partner to make sure that their learning goals were being achieved. And the other extreme, I'm going to give you an example from Germany, that one of the places that I teach on a regular basis, is they have a corporate-sponsored program. The students right out of high school are hired by these companies. And the agreement is 3 months they work for the company, 3 months they go get educated, but get their bachelor's degree. Well, guess what? We are building, you know, we're melding education and employment. So let's think about best practices in different paradigm. I know I have a few minutes left, so but I'm going to, who are we as a college of business? We have a little over 1,300. We have a little over 1,300 students in the K. Tiedemann College of Business, about 1,000 undergraduate and about 300 graduate students. I have all the traditional majors, and I'll report some of the, and we're highly accredited by both SACS as well as ASCSB. But more importantly, I want to talk to you about this, take a minute to talk to you about. The framework of education we ascribe to, the philosophy ascribed to is the know, do, be. Many of you may be familiar with that. What does that mean? We have always been very good at the knowledge in the classroom where we're educating our students. But we also take it to the next level and saying, how can we help them understand the gap between theory and practice? Building that experiential, whether the traditional form of internships or competing in actual competition, simulations, etc. But the third part that's becoming important for me today, every day, is B, the focus on the individual, developing the individual to become adaptable. So I'm investing a significant amount of money on what I call the professional development aspect of developing my students. Whether you're thinking about our MBA students, where we're addressing that with providing a workshop on design thinking, so they know they have one more tool in the arsenal to look at a human-centered problem and when they're dealing with it. Or we're giving them a workshop on looking at an assessment for disruption when they go back to their business. They say, I have a framework here. Let's see, what does the competitive landscape look like? What's a potential disruption that may happen? Or for my undergraduate students, understanding them, helping them with professionalism, networking, and leadership. All of these is under the falls and the umbrella of the B, the professional development aspect. What we're also doing is developing relevant programs. Okay? When we talked about adaptable talent, one of the key things is entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial mindset. What I'm talking about here is that we used to have, the old school thought was, let's have an entrepreneurship major. That's gone away. We are thinking every one of our students should have an entrepreneurial mindset. And not only are we thinking about an entrepreneurship major, but really are looking at every student, from whether it's science or graphic arts design, the ability for them to come and be part of that entrepreneurship in a program. And for me, working within the ecosystem, I know I see Tanya here. So we have incubators, we have accelerated programs, and as Tom said, identifying and bringing capital here. How do we get the ideation? I want to be positioned where we're helping with the ideation part and then help be part of the ecosystem here. And 30 seconds, I'll wrap it up. A couple of other things I'm going to tell you is, again, talking to the industries. Home of Raymond James, we're building our wealth management center. When we talk about data analytics, the conversation I have with every company is that, yes, we have a lot of data, Sri. Can you help us with converting that into market intelligence? And that's what we're going to be a resource for. And the last part I'll finish it up saying is that sales training and market research. We have a beautiful facility that has a market-focused room and sales training rooms. We want to make sure that when we have a home of HSN and other companies, how can we train the relevant talent for these companies here? So that's my challenge. That's what I'm challenging my team. And one of the things we are committed is that people ask, what is the difference between US, how do you define the US of St. Pete and K.T. College of Business? We call ourselves the Regional Comprehensive University. And what that means is we have a commitment to the community and to the region. So in every which way, I'm out there meeting companies, meeting business community members and other community members. We want to become a resource to you, not only in providing talent, but in also in other ways. So I look forward to being engaged. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mike, for the opportunity to be part of this panel. Fantastic. Happy to anchor it. Some of the things I'll be talking about, we'll touch on some of the things that were also mentioned, but perhaps from, as Sri mentioned, a slightly different perspective. I'm a pretty hands-on guy, and there's a lot of programs that I've been involved with at the College of Marine Science, and with a few other programs. And when I talked to Mike initially, he said, talk a little bit about the ocean team, talk a little bit about the work that you do in the Innovation District, talk a little bit also about the work that you do at the National Academy of Inventors and the National Science Foundation. And I started thinking to myself, that's a lot of different things to talk about. And it's also potentially a lot of different areas. So how do you pull them together in something that makes sense and coherence to be able to pull it together? So I thought a little bit about what I normally do. I'm a program director of a project that I'll talk briefly about. It's a hands-on project that we work in the Gulf of Mexico on. And I'm also involved in the National Academy of Inventors. We'll talk a little bit about that. And I started thinking about the topic of today's talk, which is, of course, workforce, but it's preparing the future and preparing for the future. And there was a study that I came across back in 2009 that I thought was very useful, and it indicated that student attrition and poor performance results from a couple of ideas. One is a lack of integration. Another is poor academic support and preparation, a lack of socialization with students, with the home department, and a lack of mentoring. And the report also went on to talk a little bit about similar analogies are also found in poorly performing businesses or industries. So what I decided to do was pull this presentation together with a focus on those 4 areas and how we approach those through the College of Marine Science to prepare our students, to move them along, and also to work with other people at the elementary school, middle school, and high school level as well. Hope I hit on it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is integration. And this will be kind of integration on a business perspective. The St. Petersburg waterfront, we have, there's an innovation district that was set up, and that's within St. Pete's Marine and Environmental Sciences group that function down around Bayboro Harbor area. I don't think there's a pointer on here, is there? Well, I dare not touch it. And anchoring the innovation district is the St. Petersburg Ocean Team, sometimes called SPOT, sometimes just called the Ocean Team. The Ocean Team, it's a consortium of public and private marine science, oceanographic, and environmental research agencies and institutions in the southeastern United States. The actual number varies a little bit. It's approximately 20 groups right now, not only at the College of Marine Science, but St. Pete College is a member, the USF St. Petersburg, a number of other organizations, a lot of them I'm sure you've heard of, are all part of that. So if we look at the Ocean Team, in this perspective, I know it's kind of hard to see, but around Bayboro Harbor, there's a number of organizations that are called out and where their placements are. This is what's typically known as an industry cluster. They draw productive advantages from their proximity and similarities between workforce needs and vendor needs with the other organizations that share a common goal. What's important is that common goal is both within the district and also countywide. So it's not just within the district, but it's also with other organizations that are there. The Ocean Team, along with its related agencies and businesses, they employ more than 1,600 people whose employees generated an estimated $143 million in annual household earnings and contribute over $250,000 to the Pinellas County's gross county product. That's based on a 2010 economic analysis by Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. Probably is higher than that at that point for sure. I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the members that we deal a lot with, which is the Florida Institute of Oceanography. The Florida Institute of Oceanography is a consortium of approximately 30 members all around the state. They support and provide underlying technology, equipment, facilities, and services and resources to these institutions, which then allow members of the Ocean Team to conduct research and environmental research in Florida, the Caribbean, and beyond. Without that interaction, the ships that FIO maintain and take care of and crew, we wouldn't have the ability to be able to do that. And those 30 member institutions are able to rent time on those vessels and be able to conduct research in those same areas. So it's a very valuable resource which is available. One of the programs that I'm familiar with is the COMPS program. As I mentioned, I'm the director of it. It's a coastal ocean monitoring prediction system. We work very closely with FIO to run this program. This program consists of offshore weather buoys for weather monitoring, coastal weather stations, and high-frequency radar systems. I'll show you a quick slide in the beginning. But one of the things which is important here is the number of people that it takes to run this program of all different skills. Faculty, students, and staff are all participants of it. They're all highly trained individuals, and there is an example of a programmatic integration. The COMPS program goals, we'll talk a little bit about that. In 1997, the program was implemented as a state of Florida legislative initiative. Initially, there was money there from the state. It's been augmented over the years by other state and federal programs. Prior to 97, there were a number of storms that came through. Perhaps the no-name storm is one that some of you may be familiar with. And they found out that there was not a sufficient amount of advance warning present in the Gulf of Mexico to let people know of situations where a storm came through, storm surge came through, nobody was prepared, especially up in the Big Bend area. There was significant loss of life and damage. So the program was implemented. Several program goals are to provide this real-time data for societal needs. It's also to provide an understanding of the workings of the ocean. In order to understand the big picture, you have to make measurements, you have to create models, you have to implement those models and make predictions. There's never enough money to provide instrumentation at all the locations that you need. So what you do is you put instruments in at certain locations, you create models, you use the models to predict, see how they predict at the locations where you've measured, and then you continue to refine. The modeling efforts are what the students work on. The instrumentations, on my right upper is an offshore weather buoy that we have several of them out in the Gulf of Mexico. Right below that is a weather station. That particular one is in Tarpon Springs at Fred Howard Park. Directly below that is a high-frequency radar site that we have in Reddington Shores. We also have sites all the way from Tallahassee down to the Keys. We have sites at Fort DeSoto, Venice, Naples, all over the state. If you look to my left at the upper corner, you see kind of a picture that shows the big picture of what goes on. Even though we're right a very small part around Tampa Bay, in order to understand what goes on in Tampa Bay, you have to look at what goes on within the overall Gulf of Mexico. There's a lot of things that happen there. The Gulf Stream, the loop current, all kinds of things go on. That's the reason that we have to provide this information. So USF College of Marine Science, talk just briefly about that. We've been in 50 years now. We just had our 50th anniversary and celebration earlier this month. Now that I learned that this is probably the only place where a peninsula within a peninsula within a peninsula is a very good place to be. Because what we have here it's an 11-acre waterfront campus, 3 major buildings, dockside facilities, and we have 2 state of Florida research vessels which are there, and again, run by the FIO. We have 27 tenured faculty and 47 research associates, and about $14 million in research funding, $16 million in endowments. In order to get the USF's student success, we have a 10-step program that we implemented several years ago. And you initially think, well, student just comes in and just does the student stuff. Well, it starts out with a recruitment weekend and ends up with annual progress reports where, just like an employee, you're working on this, trying to finish and get this student out in a preset amount of time. The attrition rates by doing this are down between 5 to 7%, and an average time for degrees are about 6.5 years for a PhD, 3.5 years for MS students. The last number of slides are going to talk a little bit about mentoring. I want to mention our mentoring is also focused towards STEM. And STEM education, as mentioned, you all knew what the letters were for it, which was very good. But it grows out of the idea that the boundaries between science and technology, engineering and math are permeable and interdependent. So what does that mean? That means the big picture, they all fit together. And the shortcoming of it is, if all you have is a hammer, you approach everything as if it was a nail, right? But if you look at things from a big picture perspective, and it's all interdisciplinary, you can then look at it like various tools and various approaches. And that's what you need for critical thinking, which is ultimately what we're looking for graduates and then the workforce. One of the STEM programs that we've been working on now for about 25 years is the Oceanography Camp for Girls. Back in '91, there was a report that indicated that there was a tremendous drop in the number of women pursuing math and science degrees. So we got a grant from the National Science Foundation to establish the Oceanography Camp for Girls. It's an all-girls setting, which tends to break down any social barriers that may occur and allow the girls then to be actually able to work in authentic science environments and do real research along with our researchers. The program, I think, strengthens and motivates, again, interdisciplinary learning in a real-world environment. It's open to girls within Pinellas County completing their 8th grade. It's 3 weeks in the summer. You have to fill out the forms. It's free, but it's limited to 30 people. There's another program, as I mentioned, the National Academy of Inventors. It was founded in 2010. The next few slides, I think, are kind of important. The NAI's mission is to recognize and encourage inventors with patents issued from the U.S. Patent Office, and to enhance the visibility not only of academic technology and innovation, but to encourage the disclosure of intellectual property, educate and mentor students, and translate that information and those technologies out into the business world. Not only to benefit society, but not solely just to do research, but to get it out there. The chapter started with 131 members. We are currently at 400 members. And we do a couple things. We sponsor partnerships and seminars. We also serve as judges and mentors in various STEM and innovation-related events and competition, semi-annual workshops in technology and entrepreneurship. Here's one briefly with Pinellas County. In 2015 and 2016, they've had an invention convention where students between kindergarten and 5th grade, there was between 30 and 40 of them over the 2 years, they were able to come up with inventions, present those inventions, and we provided the judges to determine the winner. The big first prize was $1,000. There's a Young Innovator competition, which is also STEM-based. This was started in 2007. It covers not just Pinellas County, but also a 5-county area, open to students from K to 8. The first competition winner and the youngest member of the USF NAI chapter received her first patent at age 11 as a function of this. They are trained. What happens is the 700 went down to 50. The 50 were down to 10. Those 10 went to a home shopping network where they were trained and briefed a little bit on making a presentation. And those 10 kids then made presentations to a full group of the college president, various people. It's incredible to see a 2nd grader standing there pitching her presentation to a bunch of very stoic-looking people from her perspective. It's a fantastic experience. And then we put on 2 workshops. One of the workshops of recent, in spring, dealt with the local 4 of the incubators, not only in Pinellas County, but also in Hillsborough County. And we also put on one discussing an NSF program called the I-Corps program, which is a program that is sponsoring and fosters entrepreneurship, trying to commercialize some of their data and some of their programs that they sponsor to get it out into the marketplace. Again, the purpose is to access entrepreneurial resources to help determine the readiness and transition of technology. There's a graduate student who's usually the entrepreneurial lead, a principal investigator who's the faculty researcher, and then a business mentor. And the business mentor can be anyone from the outside community who wishes to be part of this team and go through the process and learn this curriculum based on a lean startup program, which was developed by Steve Blank at Stanford. 2 more slides. Okay. For those that are somewhat familiar with it, there's a business model canvas. You begin taking the technology that you had developed, whether through, in this case, an NSF grant, and what you do is try to break it out and look at who potentially you think the end product, the end customers would be. And as part of the project, you have to go and talk to 100 different companies and talk to each one of those and find out what areas, what their pain is, what is difficult in their business structure. And then you evaluate to see whether your technology potentially could meet that, and then ultimately decide if it's a go, no-go for the company that you're developing, after which if you feel that it's a go, then you continue on and there's additional funds and additional methods. Again, with the idea being to try to transition and translate technology out into the private sector. So the I-Corps benefits are faculty and students, they learn language of business. The mentors get to assist students and embark on this entrepreneurial journey. All the people, including the business mentors, get an idea of cutting-edge new technology, and they can see what's going on. These are usually in groups of 20 to 25, so the business mentors not only can be involved in the group that they're within, but also get a chance to see other technologies which are out there. You make new contacts, potential income opportunities. You get to connect with investors and mentors. Again, other commercial potentials. Ultimately, you can do a startup or perhaps a license, which then could follow on to an SBIR or an STTR type of a grant, of which then now you've got a business. And then it ultimately leads back to integration, where we started. So the last slide, for workforce future. 75% of future jobs will require a blended multidisciplinary education and skill set. It's not just STEM careers, but it's STEM in every job, which is critical and a distinction which isn't always, I think, brought out. Technology is a global knowledge economy. I think that's the future, and it will require and does require a different set of skills. We've talked about that earlier today. I think it's spot on. Businesses and industry both want and need employees with these workforce skills. There's a number of little slides there. Some of them are the traditional, whether it's in the bios areas, whether it's in traditional analytical chemistry or whatnot. But the ones that are on my left are ones that we do in marine science. Those buoys require ships to put those buoys in. It requires a very unique work staff, work skills to be able to do that safely, to be able to go out and service them. But regardless of what it is, ultimately science is the key. And my apologies for running over. Thank you.
Fortunately, being at the end of the day, you'll be able to talk to these panelists afterwards if you have any questions. I want to get you out on our roadways as early as possible so you can make it to your destination. But tomorrow, please do come back. We've got some excellent speakers tomorrow to talk about the tools to make some of these ideas happen. Today, you've been presented with the problem. We've started transitioning with the solutions as far as education. Tomorrow really does focus on the solutions. We'll be here at 8:30 for breakfast and start again at 9 o'clock promptly. Please drive carefully. Thank you.